The 5-minute test is, Charlie and I we're familiar with virtually every company of a size that would interest us in the country. I mean, if you've been around for 40 or more years looking at businesses, it's just like if you were looking at, studying baseball players every day, you get to know all the players after a while. And that's the way it works. Then we have a bunch of filters we've developed in our minds over time. We don't say they're perfect filters. We don't say that those filters don't occasionally leave things out that should get through. But they're efficient, and they work just as well as if we spent months and hired experts and did all kinds of things. So we really can tell you in 5 minutes whether we're interested in something. We had never owned shares in Flight Safety, but we've been familiar with the company for at least 20 years, wouldn't you say, Charlie?
Sure, I had a partner who bought a lot of it.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's true of almost any business. And we know we've got a fix on what we don't understand, and then we don't care to know any more about them, particularly, although we'll pick up a little as we go along maybe. And then the ones that we're capable of understanding, we've probably gotten about as far as we'll get already. So we do know in 5 minutes. I've told students, if when they got out of school, they got a punch card with 20 punches on it, and that's all the investment decisions they got to make in their entire life, they would get very rich because they would think very hard about each one. And you don't need 20 right decisions to get very rich. 4 or 5 will probably do it over time. So
people underrate the importance of a few simple, big ideas. And I think that to the extent Berkshire Hathaway is a didactic enterprise, teaching the right systems of thought, I think that the chief lessons are that a few big ideas really work. I think these filters of ours have worked pretty well, and because they're so simple.
Yeah, I think most of the people in this room, if they just focused on what made a good business or didn't make a good business and thought about it a little while, they could develop a set of filters that would let them in 5 minutes figure out pretty well what made sense or didn't make sense. I mean, there may be some reason after 5 minutes we don't get together on a deal of some sort. But another thing you can usually tell, at least you can tell it in the extreme cases, you can tell whether you've got the kind of manager very quickly that you want to have. I mean, if you've got somebody that's been batting .400 all their life, and fortunately age doesn't change that picture in terms of business performance, and they love what they do, it's going to work. If the seller cares a lot about the money, a very good deal. I mean, if their real interest is what they're going to do with the money, they may fall out of love or have less interest in their business subsequently. We love working with people who are just plain nuts about their businesses, and it works very well. And you can usually spot that. Now, having said that, we'll have a few people figuring out how to fake that attitude, when they try and sell us some piece of junk here. But we can get conned by some guy with a green eye shade, and a low rent office and all that. But we won't get taken in by the guy with the suede shoes. I've run Berkshire now for 47 years. There have been several times, 4 or 5 times when we've thought it was significantly undervalued. We saw the price get cut in half at least 4 times, or roughly in half, in fairly short periods of time. And I would say this: if you run any business for a long period of time, there are going to be times when it's overvalued and sometimes when it's undervalued. Tom Murphy ran one of the most successful companies the world's ever seen, and in the early 1970s, his stock was selling for about a third of what you could have sold the properties for. And Berkshire, back in 2000, 2001, whenever it was, that I wrote in the annual report that we were also going to repurchase shares, was selling at what I thought was a very low price, and we didn't get any repurchased. But that stocks, the beauty of stocks is they do sell at silly prices from time to time. I mean, that's how Charlie and I have gotten rich.